Hi everybody, so this is the video for section H, which is on box and whisker plots. So box and whisker plots are a type of graph that can visually show the spread of a set of data. So it's a way of sort of seeing how the spread is, or how the data is spread out, what the variance is there, sort of gives you a big picture. For those people that are visual, it can be really helpful. So in order to create a box and whisker plot, you need to know 5 pieces of information. And those 5 pieces of information are known as the 5-number summary. So there's nothing new here. We've seen all of these before, but this is just a new way of sort of referring to this group of pieces of information. So the 5-number summary consists of the minimum, the lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, and the maximum. So if you're unfamiliar with any of those terms, feel free to go back to previous videos to sort of refresh your memory. We're going to go through an example relatively quickly of how to find these pieces of information. So if you need more, obviously go back to the previous videos. Okay, so here's the set of data that we're going to create a box and whisker plot for. So just a random set of data generated from, I don't know, make it up. So in order to find any of these 5 pieces of information, the first step is going to be to put all of your data points in order. You cannot find any of those things unless you have your data all in order. And then I just made a list here to the side of the 5 pieces of information that I need to figure out from this data. Obviously, minimum and maximum are the easiest ones to start with. Look for your lowest value, that's your minimum. Look for your highest value, that's your maximum. And then you sort of set in on Q1, the median, and Q3. You have to start with the median, so we'll start there. So to find the median, I'm going to do n plus 1 divided by 2, and I know that there are 16 data points here, so I'm going to do 16 plus 1 divided by 2, and that gives me the 8.5th value. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in between 8 and 9 is where I'm going to find my median. So I'm going to find the average of those two numbers. Pretty simple because they're the same. So the median is 5. Okay, so then I'm going to move to Q1 and I'm going to look at the values below the median. Since my median was not actually one of my data points, I'm going to include all of the numbers less than the median. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got 8 values. So I'll just label that median and Q1. Now I have n plus 1 divided by 2. So now I have 8 values that I'm looking at. Plus 1 divided by 2, so that's going to give me the 4.5th value. So in between 4 and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in between 3 and 4. If you really needed to, you could find the average of 3 and 4, or you could just recognize that that is going to be 3.5 for Q1. So same thing on the other side. So to find Q3, I'm looking for the 4.5th value that is greater than the median because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 values above the median. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4th value is a 6 and the 5th value is a 6. So the 4.5th value is going to be the average of those two. Since they're the same, Q3 is going to be 6. So now that I have all of the 5 numbers that I need, now I can go ahead and create my box and whisker plot. So you're going to need graph paper to do this because you're going to need to set yourself a scale. So I have created a scale here so that I can match the numbers that I have. So my smallest number is a 1, my highest number is 11. So I've created a scale here on my graph paper where every box represents 0.5. I could have done every box representing 1, but it's sort of a narrow set of information, so I just kind of wanted to elongate it a little bit and sort of be able to see a little bit more of what's going on. So once you've created your scale, then you're going to take each of these 5 numbers and you're going to put a little dot above where that number is on my scale. So I'm going to put a dot, I'm going to put it, let's say, 2 boxes above the 1, and then I'm going to go to 3.5 and I'm going to put another point there. I'm going to go to 5, I'm going to put another point there, and I'm going to go to 6, and then I'm going to go all the way over to 11. Okay, so this thing is called a box and whisker plot. So with my middle 3 dots, I'm going to create a box around those, with the outside of the box going through point 2, Q1, and point 4, Q3. Then I'm going to put a straight line down through the box through the median. And then on either side, I'm going to extend lines out to my maximum and out to my minimum. And that's a box and whisker plot. That's how you do it. So how do you sort of interpret this? What can you sort of learn from this? Well, you can kind of learn that this whisker represents 25% of the data. And we talked about that at the tail end of last video, about how in between the minimum and Q1, that represents 25%. So this whisker represents 25% of the data points falling in that sort of range. And then this other whisker, that also represents 25%. So you can see that the lower 25% are not as spread out as the upper 25%. And then the box in the middle goes from Q1 to Q3 with the median in the middle. So from Q1 to the median, that represents another 25%. And then median to Q3 represents another 25%. So this box represents the middle 25%, or sorry, the middle 50% of the data. 25% here, 25% there. So you can start to talk about things looking at the box and whisker plot. And I've done sort of a few examples down here just to sort of discuss what the box and whisker plot means. So if we look at this first one, remembering the box represents 50% of the data, you can see that the middle 50% is pretty concentrated. That box is relatively small compared with the whiskers that go out on either side. You can see that the lower 25% of the data is much more spread out than the upper 25% and the middle 50%. If you look at this one, you can say, wow, okay, so the lower 25% of the data is pretty concentrated, and then this middle 50% is quite spread out, but the median is much closer to Q3 than it is to Q1. So again, this 25% of the data in the first half of the box is much more spread out than the next 25%. That's much more concentrated. So though there must be a lot of data points sort of in between this narrow range. Then if we look at this one doesn't even have a whisker on the outer side. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that the minimum and Q1 are going to be the same. So you're going to have quite a few of that same exact data point in order to have no whisker if the minimum and Q1 are the same. So this is just examples of things you can sort of talk about when you see a box and whisker plot, and what does it mean and how do you interpret it. So creating them, I think, is relatively straightforward. You find your 5-number summary, and then you plot those 5 bits of information onto a scale, create a whisker from minimum to Q1, create a box from Q1 to Q3 with a line down through the median, and then create a whisker from Q3 up to your maximum. So creating them is not that difficult, but then you can sort of compare things when you're looking at more than one box and whisker plot, or it allows you to be able to talk about the data, to sort of explain it a little bit, or kind of get a feel for what's going on. And that's what we want to do in statistics, is we want to be able to talk about what are the implications of this data, how can we analyze it, what can we say about it. And that's really what statistics is all about. So there you go, that's box and whisker plots.